And opinions expressed by the host of Autism-Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live, everybody. I'm Shannon Penrod, and I'm coming to you from an undisclosed location this morning. So thrilled to be here. No, it's not COVID. No, this is not a repeat. I'm just coming to you from a distance. I'm zooming into you this morning because we didn't want to not do the show because it's an important topic this morning. We're talking about how to finish the school year strong, which for a lot of us, man, I don't know. I always remembered this period of time when Jem was in grade school and high school as both a fun and a stressful time, right? You want to finish strong and there's all these things going on. And it felt like there was a lot for me to do as a parent. And it's funny because now he's in college. I feel like there's supposed to be a lot that I'm supposed to do and I'm not needed anymore. It's a very interesting thing. But this period of time when you're almost done, but you're not done, it can be a really fun time or it can be really stressful. And I wanted to put together some things for you today to try to make it as not only fun as possible, but productive. Because if we do all the work of the school year and we don't finish well, that leaves a bad taste in the mouth. So let's not do that. Let's absolutely finish strong. So first of all, good morning. As I mentioned, I am Shannon Penrod. I'm a very proud pony. That stands for parent of a neurodiverse individual. I love being here with you guys and having an opportunity to talk with you. You guys can write into the chat right now. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. The date it's the 13th of May and the year is 2024. I know if you're tuning in, you're like, what is this? Wait a minute. This reminds us of COVID when she was doing it long distance, but no, this is not a rerun, not a repeat. We are live right now and you guys can be writing in right now on the chat. You can ask questions and we'd love to hear your comments about the topic or about absolutely anything else. We also are going to be, the show will podcast. That's what I want to say. It's like my first time. The show will podcast later on today. And Chris Desmond, our fabulous Chris Desmond, who's making it all work long distance. Appreciate you, Chris, is showing you on the screen right now the different ways that you can watch or listen to the show. You know, when we podcast, it's audio only. We hope that you'll take advantage of the free download wherever you get your podcasts. We also want you to be enjoying the advertisements that will come with that free download. Remember, the advertisements are what make it free to you. So we hope that you will check that out. And if you really, I know a couple of you have written in and said, you know, it's really a little bit disruptive for me because I'm trying to run while I'm listening to you, or I'm trying to do something while I'm listening to you. And the ads kind of, it's not my favorite thing. If that really is a thing for you and you have a little bit of money to spend, it's $5 a month and you can get all of the podcasts that we do ad free for one low cost of $5 a month. It's actually cheaper if you do it for the entire year. You would want to go to glow.fm/autism-live. So that is available to you whenever you want. If not, we hope that you will enjoy all the ads that make it free for you. I'm trying to think what else I'd like to tell you that our whole mission here is at Autism Network is that we want to provide the autism community, that larger autism community, with information and inspiration. Now, what does that mean, that larger autism community? Of course, it starts with individuals who are themselves on the autism spectrum. I hope you guys notice we are trying whenever possible to make a place where it is safe for those individuals to speak their mind and tell us their thoughts and what they need. But we also include in that larger autism community all the individuals who love those individuals. I identify as one of those people, and we want to be good allies, right? We want to know What can we do to be helping, not preventing progress? And sometimes, I always say here, we want to be superheroes, right? But no capes. And I don't know about the rest of you, but sometimes I don't get it right. That's just the truth. But I always want to learn, right? If we can be in that mindset and learn and go, okay, this is helpful, this is not, I definitely, that's where I want to be. I hope that you guys are too. So we're always trying to provide information and inspiration to everybody, resources for all, because this is not a one size fits all journey, right? So that's what we're here for. We feature a lot of experts on the show. I'm not an expert in autism, that's for sure. I think there's a piece of paper somewhere that says that, but I am somebody who has been on this journey for a while and interviewed a lot of people. So I have an informed opinion that I like to share. And when we do that, we call it the parent to parent episodes, of which today is one of those. So that's sort of my disclaimer, but we hope that you guys will write in and that you will, if you're watching us live, that you will write in. We have a lot of people that we want to say happy birthday to. I know that over the weekend, it was Carrie Mallory Thompson's birthday. So we're saying happy birthday to her over there at Thelma Lou, and we hope that you had a great one. There were a bunch of people too, and it all escapes me at the moment. It'll come back to me in a minute. But let's go ahead and get started with our talk today. And it's finishing the school year strong. This is a top 10 tips show. So for those of you who don't know, what we're going to do is we're going to run through the top 10 tips really quickly for those of you who don't have a lot of time and you got places to be and things to do. So we're going to run through those top 10 tips and with just like a brief description. Then we're going to go back and I'm going to go in depth on all of them. Yeah? Sound like a good plan? So let's get started. Go ahead, Chris. So, first thing, inspirational for everybody. It's easy to forget when you get to the end and kind of let down. Don't do that. You're in the home stretch. So now is not the moment to give up. Now is the moment to sort of, step up and really finish it strong. So let's go ahead on to the next one. Number one, get your child excited about the change. There's two different schools of thought on this. And one is that our kids don't like change. Well, that's true. But is that how we want life to be forever? No, we want our kids to be as flexible as possible. And here's the little spoiler alert. We as parents, we don't like change. I think we don't like change more than they don't like change. But whenever something changes, there's the potential for something new. So in the long explanation, I'll give you some really great tips on how to, get your child excited about the change. But it's important that we language it in a way of, this is exciting. You're not going to be a fourth grader anymore. You're going to be a fifth grader. And fifth grade is great because, right? So get them excited about the change. Okay, number two, communicate a plan to maximize your funded sources. What do I mean by that? You have funding very likely for something, whether it's speech, OT, ABA, something that somebody is funding for you. In this moment right now, and it's really towards the end of it, so you've got to do it as soon as possible, you need to communicate to whoever is providing those services and say, here's how much of it I'd like to use during the summer. And here's how much I'd like to maximize it. You missed some appointments before? Tell them you want to make those up now, but you have to communicate it right now. Let's move on to number three. You got to make the decision right now about ESY. I know earlier in the year, ESY, by the way, stands for extended school year. Earlier in the year, we were like, okay, you can say yes that you're going to take it at your IEP, but then you're going to think about it and you're going to weigh it. And I'm going to give you some criteria in the longer talk about what would help you to decide about, are you doing ESY or are you doing something else? But now is the time you really got to make a decision. All right, number four. We're going to shore up and complete any IEP arrangements right now. And that might mean accepting that this piece of it is not going to be solved till the fall, but now is the moment. Now is the moment. You've really only got a couple of weeks left before the end of the school year. So we gotta be moving towards whatever the resolution will be, even if it's just we're putting a hold until the fall. Number 5, we're going to ask the teachers and service providers what to work on over the summer. And you're going to ask them, what have you got for me? I remember OTs sending us home with noise canceling headphones, with, breathing techniques on a Walkman. That's how long ago it was. Worksheets, things like that. But you need to ask them, what should we be working on over the summer? And what can you send me home with? Usually they're thrilled to give you stuff. It's kind of cool. Okay, number 6. We're going to plan for rewards at school and after school right now. This is the time of year when people are going to be bringing in all the cupcakes and the ice pops and all of this nonsense at school, some of which is not good for your child, whether it's because of allergies, artificial colors, flavors, whatever. So you got to have a plan for that. And my suggestion, I'll go more in depth in this when we do the longer one, is take something right now and give it to the teacher and say, when you have these kinds of things, and if it's something my child can't eat, here's a stash of this. But then we got to plan for what is the reward when they come home, because we really want to be solidifying that, this is a change, and change is good, right? That's how we're languaging it. We'll talk more about that in the longer one. Number 7, we're going to give contact with other parents so that you can get a hold of people over the summer. I'll give you some great tips for that. Number 8, now I know you're probably like, what are you talking about, Shannon? But now is the ideal time to change diet. And I'm going to give you the best tips for that in a minute. Number 9, we're going to give a new privilege to your child for finishing. This is one of the ways that we're going to solidify that change is good. They're going to get something new, a new privilege, not a toy, but a new privilege for having finished whatever they just finished. And number 10, and this is the best thing that I can give you, is my solution for what the best teacher gift is of all time. I'm not going to make you wait to watch the whole thing to see, but my tip for this is to write a letter. To the teacher. This is only for the teacher who's been fabulous, right? We only do this. We only reward people who've been wonderful. Anybody who's on your team, whether it's the OT, the RSP, the SLP, all the letters, right? The APE, your classroom teacher, the aide, anybody who gave fabulous service to your child, you're going to reward them with a letter that says that they were fabulous. You're going to print out 2 copies of the letter. You're going to put a brief note with the one for the teacher saying, thank you so much. I mean this sincerely. And I have given a copy of this letter to your principal and asked them to put it in your permanent file. Whoo, that's the best gift you can ever give anybody. Then the other one, you print it out and you put a little Post-it note on it and say to the principal, this teacher was really wonderful. I'm asking that you please put this in their permanent file. Okay, what does that do for that teacher? It's going to help them for promotions. It's also going to make them feel great. It's going to cement that doing great with a kiddo on the spectrum is a thing that's deeply, deeply appreciated. So please, please, please do this. And the payoff for this, in years to come, there will be dividends that you can't even imagine. That I'm going to tell you about when we do the long version, okay? But it is the best teacher gift ever. Somebody shared this with me and I started doing it. By the way, it's free. It does take a little bit of time to sit and write the letter, but it's great to start those now before we're in the last week of school. Get those letters written. I will tell you, it means more than anything. I'm a former teacher, and when you get a letter like that, whoo! Hey, Rodney, saying hello to you. But when you get a letter like that, it is amazing. You personally, it feels great. And trust me, they don't need the bath salts. The gift cards are great, but a letter, a personal letter, feels so different. And having it in your file, oh my gosh. And I'll tell you all the things that does later on when we get back to it. Okay, so now we're going to reset, go back to the beginning, and we're going to dive in on all of these. So this whole idea of when you're in the home stretch, I like to say that I don't know if it's just my family, but I feel like there's this thing that runs through my family that we'll do all the work and then we get right to the end and we're like, I don't know if I can do it. Do you know what I mean? And we all know this in our family. And so there's always somebody who says, yeah, no, we always do this. This is what it feels like. You still got to do it. You're fine. You're almost there. I can remember doing summer theater, and we had to do 112 shows in like 110 days, kind of a thing. And I was also working part-time while I was doing this, and I'd gotten nodes in my throat. It was just, and I remember we were 2 days before the end, and I woke up and I was like, I just don't think I can do it. Right? So I just know that that's something in our family, and I don't know if that's in your family too, but we in our family we have the built-in pep talk about now is not the time to let down. Now is the time to charge across the finish line. You can do it. Pick yourself up. You are so close. You got to rally, right? Absolutely important. And so I get it. It's hard, right? And I've been there many, many times. And my solution for that always is that I visualize it already done. I don't know why that helps, but I visualize, I go, there is a time and a place, where I'm going to look back and this will have been finished. And that kind of gives me that to get across the finish line. So I offer that up to you. If you have other suggestions, please write them in, because I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are like, ooh, I just don't know if are we going to land this plane, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our list of things here. First of all, number one, we're going to get our child excited about the change. And this comes, and I have to say, we do. Hi, Angela. So thrilled that you're here. We do this. It's sort of easier for me because the end of the school year is right around my son's birthday. And we started this thing when he was very young, that it was like, oh, okay, you're about to be done with kindergarten. And that's a big deal because you're going to be a big first grader and you're going to be 5 or 6 or whatever the age was. And, it's going to be wonderful. And you're going to be one of the big kids. It's just a way of languaging it and showing the excitement around it that it builds their self-esteem. And it makes them feel like, oh, there's something to be excited about instead of anxious about. They say that nature abhors a vacuum. And I think if you don't put the excitement in, you're leaving room for other things to come in. And, for me as a kid, I remember that every school year that ended, it was like, oh my gosh, and we're going to have the summer, and the summer's going to be so great. But I think back all the time and I wonder, where did I get that from? Like, who fed that into my head? And it might just have been the other kids, and then I fed on the other their excitement. But for our kids, sometimes they may not notice that. So I feel like it's that much more important that we keep languaging it and saying how exciting it's going to be, and potentially give them something to look forward to of, oh my gosh, your year-end school party is coming up. Yay. There's two things here. First of all, if we help them to be excited about it, we might lower their anxiety and they'll know what's coming, which does lower their anxiety. But also, we talk all the time about the joint attention thing, about how, when a child is looking at something and then looks at you, and then you have this conversation just with the way you're looking at each other, and then you look back at the third thing, it's the triangle of attention. Well, one of the reasons why joint attention is important is because the child is learning from your facial expressions whether that thing is good or bad. So if they see Mickey Mouse and you go, oh, right? And they're noticing it, that's informing their little brains. Oh, Mickey Mouse is something to be excited about it. Mom and dad are excited about it. So maybe I should be excited about it, right? But the flip is that if it was a dog that had their teeth bared and we were like, it's a dog, and we're showing fear, then our child learns, oh, a dog with their teeth bared that's something to be feared. So in this way, we're teaching them, we're imprinting them with our impressions of things. This can be good and bad, right? And for our kids, sometimes the triangle of attention is not there. They might look at the thing, but they're not looking at us to see what our reaction is. We can strengthen that by telling them and showing them how we feel about something. So when we see that a change is coming weeks in advance, we go, oh, it's going to be so exciting and it's going to be really fun. And there's going to be whatever their favorite thing is going to be there. Right. And that's us imprinting on them that this change anyway is going to be a positive thing. So I really want to encourage you, don't be imprinting things that you don't mean to on your child, that are going to stress them out, like, oh, now we're going to change the teachers. Keep that for your friends and significant others. To the child, it's going to be so exciting. It's going to be wonderful, right? Okay, so let's move on to number 2. Number 2, it is time to communicate a plan to maximize your funded services. I was saying before, this could be your SLP, this could be your OT. If you are looking at your IEP and there are minutes left, and I hate to be this way because none of us wants to keep track of the minutes, but on your IEP, if you go to the service pages, it says, for each one of the services that your child has, it says how many minutes they were supposed to get. And the minutes were figured out by figuring out how many weeks there were times how, if they're going to do 30 minutes a week and they had this many weeks, then they figure out the minutes, right? So if during the school year you should keep track, and I know it's such a drag, like you don't have anything else to do, right? But if you just keep a calendar, your wall calendar, or you keep it on your phone, and you note if things get canceled. So, the speech teacher was out on the Monday that you had the speech services. So you just note it. And then throughout the school year, you say, are we going to make that up? Well, if anything has not been made up now is when you want to ask for it and say, are we going to get that over the summer? How are you going to, because otherwise they're not in compliance. Or they have to write you a check to have somebody else do it. That's called compensatory education. That is a legal document, the IEP, and if they made promise of services and they didn't deliver them, they either have to deliver them and make them up now, or over the summer if you agree to that, or they have to write you a check for someone else to do that. That is just the law. It's not even a big argument. So it is worthwhile to keep track of those kinds of things. But there's other funding that you have, and I'm going to talk specifically about ABA for a minute, because it's so interesting that when, for instance, when they did the Young Lovaas experiment, which was the study that showed how effective ABA would be, and Dr. Granpeesheh was one of the original investigators in that study. And she tells us all the time, we chose 40 hours a week because that's how long the parents were at work, right? And it was an easy number to come up with, 40 hours a week. Well, Parker, I see the Parker's there. Parker, we haven't had you here live in a long time. I'm going to talk about ESY in just a second. So hang on just one second. I think it's number 4 coming up. But back to 40 hours a week. So that tended to be figuring out your ABA hours per week was because that's how it was languaged in the original studies, 40 hours a week. But now with your insurance providers, they don't think of it as much about, we still are talking about it 40 hours a week, but they will give you funding in a chunk that's for 3 or 6 months. And it is figured out just like the school thing. So if it's 40 hours a week or 30 hours a week or whatever your prescription is, times this many months, right, which is this many weeks, there's a chunk of hours. So if anything has ever happened where the ABA provider canceled on you or you canceled on them, those hours are still there. And it used to be when my son was being treated, if you didn't use them in the week, too bad, so sad, they were gone. That is not the case anymore. With insurance, it's there. And you should all be looking at and talking to your ABA provider about how many hours do we have banked and can we use them during the summer? Now is the perfect time to do intensive ABA with it and use up all of your hours. Why, if insurance is giving you the money to do those hours, why would you go, no, thanks, I don't think we'll use them. So anyway, that's please, but if you do not communicate to them right now, they may not have the hours to give you. They are staffing right now. It's a little bit late even, but if you call right now, you may still be able to get in under the wire and say to them, we want to use every single hour that we haven't used since the last authorization. Okay, so maximize those hours. I have seen so many families see such changes over the summer because they maximize their ABA hours. Ooh, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, moving on to the next one. I think we're on number 3. There we are, Parker. I was wrong. It wasn't 4. It was number 3. Decide about ESY. So ESY is extended school year. And if you were here last week when I did a parent-to-parent talk, I shed a little bit more light on, because I'm a former school teacher. ESY is designed specifically to be given to kids. We already know that all kids are going to backslide a little bit over the summer because they're not having that constant educationally enriched environment. And there are some skills that if they don't get them on a regular basis, all kids, even kids that have never been looked at for being on the spectrum, will backslide a little bit. It's just the human brain, right? So, okay, we've accepted that, which I think is craziness, but we've accepted that, which is why when you come back to school in the fall, they will spend the first 4 solid weeks reviewing all the concepts from last year before they dive into the stuff that's new for this school year. But what we've accepted is that it will be somewhere between 0 and 19% that the regular student will lose. And school has just arbitrarily decided that that's acceptable. However, if your child is someone who is at risk for losing more than 19%, 20% or up, then they are offered extended school year. And I like to be clear with people that what's going to happen during that extended school year is that they are going to review everything that was taught during the school year so that they will not backslide. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not opposed to that. And if your child is someone who did not get the concepts during the school year and is behind, it's not a horrible way for them to spend the 4 to 6 weeks that it runs during the summer. Okay, I've taught extended school year. I'm not trying to say anything bad about extended school year. However, it may be that your child did okay for those things during the school year. Maybe they could use a little bit of review, but to waste 6 weeks on not moving forward would be criminal. And in that case, I'm going to tell you, you should turn extended school year down and do things that help them for the next school year. So that's a very important determination, and only you can make that. I would encourage you to be talking with the professionals in your life that know your child. I would caution you to be a little bit careful about taking the advice from the school, because they're going to tell you that your child should be in extended school year. By the way, there are some times that school, when they've shorted the child on the IEP, will offer extended school year as a way to make up. Be very careful about that as well. That should not be used for that. Although if you accept it, that is what you got for your compensatory education. If you are looking to get further and learn new concepts, and like, for instance, let's say that you had a 5th grader that they did okay in this last school year, maybe not great, but they did okay. And they passed, and the thing is, we're worried about them missing out, but they're struggling with their handwriting, and we didn't really get the multiplication tables. My advice would be, do not do the extended school year, do intensive ABA and do some intensive tutoring to not only get them what they learned last year, but learning new concepts. So when they hit 6th grade, they're ready for 6th grade. Yeah. But you've got to decide right now. Because if you're not going to do extended school year, you do not want to sit and do nothing, right? That's what happens when we get the backslide. So don't do nothing, but you got to make the decision about what you're going to do. It's only fair to tell the school about now, yes, we're going to do it. No, we're not going to do it. And if you are planning on doing something else, make sure it's available to your child. If you are like, well, I'd like to double down on the ABA, before you cancel extended school year, call your ABA provider and say, if I pull them from extended school year, can you staff me? Because you don't want them to have nothing. Nothing is not good during the summer, but there are some things that are better than other things. Yeah. So make your decision and let people know what it is that you're doing. It's all about communication in May. Get it all communicated. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So number 4 is, this is when we're going to shore up and complete anything for IEP arrangements. Some of you, you're already done, and congratulations, you're all done. Your IEP is set. For you, I would say take this time, get the IEP printed out, put it in plastic sheets so that it's ready to go in August or September. If you aren't done, which is a lot of people that are out there, that maybe there's one thing that you're still negotiating, maybe you're in Nowhereville, you're like thinking of filing due process, whatever it is, now is the moment to figure out how we're going to get through the summer. Even if, as I was saying before, even if right now you're deciding, okay, I don't think we're going to be able to come to a decision. So put one last letter into them saying, I don't think we're going to be able to arrive at a decision. Therefore, we're asking for a stay put. We are, asking for a reevaluation. Try to put it one more time on their plate so that they have to worry about it, but on your side, it's done. Joanne wrote in and said ESY is being offered at the same school doing the same thing, and he is not making progress. What burns me is that they used to send him to an autism camp, but they won't this year, and they keep saying ESY will not teach anything new. Man, do I need Bonnie. Well, you could reach out to Bonnie. Our problem is comprehension, and I'm so worried about the school year. We're doing a show coming up a little bit later on about comprehension. About reading comprehension, which is, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. I have to tell you that Emily Island wrote a book about reading comprehension, and I want to say, is it called Bridging the Gap? But if you look up Bonnie Island, you'll see that, and that was Tom Island's mom. Parker says, how about transitions like elementary to middle? Or middle to high school, for example. Well, that's one of those examples, Parker, of getting somebody excited for a change. In those instances, it's really about doing a lot of research, asking, can we take tours? I always like to, this will be part of our, at the end of the summer, how do we get ready and make a really successful school year? But you can be telling them right now, Parker, you could say, hey, when do you get back? Because the teachers come back a couple of days before school starts so they can get their rooms together and do that without the kids there. And it's an ideal time, especially for middle school and high school, to say, when are the counselors back? And make an appointment on one of those days for your child to get a tour by their counselor of the campus. I think that that's one of the best ways to put ourselves at ease and to put our teens at ease, is making that connection with the counselor and seeing the campus with them. It gives that counselor, it sort of forces them to spend some time with them to get to know more about them. I remember when my son was going to junior high, we fought all summer long, y'all. All summer long, the school and I went back and forth about what his placement was going to be for junior high. It was so stressful. And then like a week and a half before school started, they agreed to what we had asked for. And I just didn't know if it was going to happen, right? So we went in 2 days before school started, and he got to tour the campus with his counselor. And his counselor was this really amazing man. Believe me, I wrote a good letter of recommendation for him. But he gave my son this thing that was a hall pass, and it was a specific color. He only gave it to a few students, so everybody on campus knew what this thing was. If you pulled it out, they knew exactly what it was, and it said on it, I get to go to Mr. I'm not going to say what his name is, partially because I can't remember, but I get to go to his room, and it was a no questions asked hall pass. So that if anything ever happened, you got to be excused and go directly to his room. And he only had to use it once in the 2 years that he was in junior high, but it was critical and it was important that he had that, and it made him feel less anxious. So I encourage you to do those kinds of things when it is a change of placement of the school. Even before the school opens for the school year, you can drive over to the campus. You can practice getting out of the car. You can walk around. The outside at the gates are locked. Usually there's somebody there all throughout the summer. And sometimes you can go in and say, hey, can we just walk to the lunchroom? They may say no, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So those kinds of transitions are critical. And thank you for asking about that, Parker. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Number 5, ask teachers and service providers what to work on over the summer. Now, I'm going to back up just a little bit and say that it's probably already happened at your school, but if it hasn't, at the end of the school year, they have sort of a back to school open house kind of a situation where pretty much every school I know and have ever known does this, where parents are invited. Basically, you get to go in and see, they have all the artwork hanging all over the classroom and examples of your kids' work. And there's like a 10-minute presentation that the teacher does. And then usually, because a lot of families have more than one kid, they have usually 2 or 3 sessions where it'll be like 10 minutes and the bell rings. And if you want to stay in the classroom, you can, or you can move on to your other child's classroom. And I always say to people, it's really important that, you spend that time with a teacher, ooh and all over your child's work. But then if you have the opportunity, if you don't have other kids, or if there are 3 sessions or whatever, if you have the opportunity, duck into the next grade that your child will be doing. If for no other reason, to see what they worked on during that year. You'll see, oh, well, they're going to work on ecology. Or, oh, I remember the year that, I guess it would have been when my son was in 9th grade going into 10th grade, maybe, that everything was the French Revolution. And I was like, oh, well, we're going to read, what's the best of times, worst of times. Oh, I swear I'm having a senior moment today. The Charles Dickens book. I cannot think what the name of it is. It's not Les Miserables, it's the other one, because that's the Hugo one. It'll come to me at 2:00 in the morning. You know what I'm talking about. In any case, we read that during the summer and listened to the audiobook, and we watched a movie, and it just really helped him to understand the French Revolution, so that when he went into classes, French Revolution was not that foreign of a thing. Maybe you walk into the classroom and you go, oh, this is the year that they're focusing on learning all the states and their capitals. And okay, that's something we can work on over the summer. It's also a great time to check out the teachers in the next grade and introduce yourself and see who gets excited about your kiddo, right? And if they've heard you write great letters of recommendation, you'll be able to tell who really wants your child. But you can also just ask the teachers, what are we working on next year? You can also Google, what are the standards for the next year? If you're interested, you can. Tale of Two Cities. Thank you. Couldn't think of it. Tale of Two Cities. Anyway, now is a great time to be asking them. And sometimes when you've got a really wonderful teacher or a service provider, they will just load you up with stuff. I remember our kindergarten teacher just sending us home with a whole, and by the way, they sent every kid home with this, which was just amazing. Not every teacher can do that, but they sent us home with a whole bunch of stuff that was to help review stuff that had been during the year. There were worksheets, there were manipulatives, there were all kinds of things. But it also had a list of, here are some concepts like money and things like this that you should shore up and have ready for first grade. How amazing is that? But don't assume that the teacher's going to know to do that. Ask them. Just, go in, or if you're still having parent-teacher conferences, or just ask for an appointment and say, what should we be working on? You could also, if you have an IEP, there's somebody who's probably the team leader for that, and you can say what kinds of things. But you can also Google, what are the concepts? It's called the standards. What are the standards for grade whatever? Guess what else you can do? And you can see this. You can go to Khan Academy, KHAN, academy.org, and just put in your child's grade, and it's all there for you. And the lessons are there for your child to learn and do. It's all free. You got to love that. So Joanne says, yes, we are starting middle school and freaking out. Well, I will tell you, I hear you on that one. And I certainly for sure was freaking out for the middle school thing, because it's a different fish. Right. And I don't, first thing you want to find out is, how does the schedule work? Oh my goodness. The the things that they do with middle school schedules. Because often when you go to high school, it seems like high school is very regimented, and it's like period 1, period 2, period 3, right? And for this semester, you go, and if you have gym for period 1, then you have gym for period 1 the entire semester, right? I don't know why middle school tries to make it extra tricky sometimes. And I've taught many different places with many different schedules. Like sometimes they have Monday classes, which are only an hour, and Tuesday, Thursday classes are 2 hours. I don't, there's all different kinds of weird things. But this school, it was a 9-day period, a 9-period day, excuse me. But every day, the periods started 1 period later. So you were constantly rotating. So on Monday started with period 1, and then Tuesday started with period 2, and it would go up through 9, and then you would get period 1, and then you would do that until you had completed the cycle, and then I don't know how anybody knew where to be anytime. And I thought, oh my gosh, my child's never going to be able to figure this out, except he could figure it out much better than I could figure it out. I never got it. He understood where he was supposed to be. I don't know why. He had an executive functions aid for middle school, and I really, really, really recommend that. Even if your child is past the point where they need an aid for behavior, you can ask for an executive functions aid for middle school, and it is such a great thing. He had this amazing young woman who she looked like an older kid, but she was just at an age where she could pass, and she would sit far away from him in class. But she would take all of the notes from the class in a notebook right along as if she was taking the class. And he took all the notes in class, but she would give him her notebook to study from. And then he had 1 period of the day where he would meet with her, and they would just go over, okay, what do you have due? Did you turn this in? Da, 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 da. And that's what she did. And it was a fabulous thing, Joanne. So I recommend that to you, executive functions aid. And let me tell you, we fought all summer long about it. And then they begrudgingly admitted that they would do it. And afterwards, at the end of the year, at the end of the 2 years, everyone wrote me letters saying, thank you so much. You educated us so much about what is possible with this kind of a student who, doesn't need the behavioral support, but, and they can do the work academically, but it's the turning the stuff that is a hot mess. So, I offer that up to you. But now is the time to be talking about what we need to know for the next school year and what would help to prepare them. Because maybe you can go to a museum and look at, if you're going to be studying colonial America, go to a museum that shows colonial America. You can, or watch movies that are colonial America so that they can start to get ready. Parker says, for me, for 2 years in middle school, I had a one-on-one for social skills reasons. Perfect. That's absolutely fabulous, Parker. And I'm assuming that really helped you. I hope so. Write it and tell me. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. I'm watching the time. Number 6, plan for rewards at school and after school. So, if you know that they're going to be handing stuff out, like I put the popcorn here. There was a time when Jem could not have popcorn. He can have popcorn now, but he couldn't. And it was a big deal. They were making popcorn, and they were having ice pops, and they were having ice cream sundaes and all this stuff, none of which he could eat. Now, I did 2 things for Jem. One of them was that I said to him, if ever, because they were supposed to give notice if they were bringing something, like it was somebody's birthday and they were going to bring cupcakes, they were supposed to give us notice so that we could bring something separate. But you know how that is. There's always some poor mom who last minute thought of it, and the teacher's not going to say no to them, right? So I always said to my son, here's the deal. If they ever have a treat for the other kids at school and you are not able to have it, then you tell me when you get home and you will get the biggest treat that there is. We lived right by this, it was one of those arcade places that's on steroids. And I would say to him, if ever there's a thing where they had a treat at school and you couldn't have it, I will take you right to that fun zone and you will get to play whatever you want to play. So instead of being, oh, woe is me, I didn't get to have it, he'd be like, woohoo, I'm going to get to the fun zone when they would hand out something that wasn't there for him. So that's one thing you can do to like make it fair, as Dr. Grant Pichet says, no matter what. And he loved it when they would mess up and do that because just woohoo, I get tons of stuff. The other thing you can do is take a treat that's shelf stable. Like my son at the time really liked those cashew cookie things, the Laura bars. And so I just brought a case of them to the school and said to the teacher, if there's ever a thing where everybody else is getting a surprise treat, he can have a cashew cookie. So that's one thing that you can do. And sometimes it's different. And if your child has a real hard time with doing something that's different, offer them the reward for doing something different. So because they're dealing with a lot of rewards at school right now, and you want to make sure that your child is getting an equal and even reward as well at school. But then how about after school? That this is a time in which you really want to be cementing that you've done something great, we're getting close to the end, and we're going to build in some rewards. So maybe you go to the fun zone one day a week on Friday to reward. Maybe you have friends over on Friday and have whatever the treat is. Maybe there's, you start to go to the pool, or if you have a pool, to be in the pool if we got through the day, right? And so now we get the treat. I can remember being a very little kid, and I always knew it was close to the end of the school year because my mother would pack fresh cherries in my lunch, which was like, we never had that, but it must be, the last 2 days of school because mom packed cherries and the lunch. It was a reward. It was a treat. It doesn't all have to be food. It can be other things too. Like maybe you get to come home and you get 15 minutes of video games that you normally don't get until homework is over, but it's the end of the school year, so you get 15 minutes. Parker said it did make a difference for me. The man was a pastor and didn't sugarcoat things. And I had autism social class too. And Joanne says, our school allows us to bring cupcakes in the freezer. Love it. That's wonderful. So then you know that you've got the cupcake that they can have and put it in the freezer. I'm going to tell you something. We had homemade popsicles that we had made for my son in case they had the popsicles, and some teacher ate them. Even though they were very labeled, a teacher got in there and ate them. Joanne says, I love that Jen figured it out. My child has it and keeps telling me it's only a little gluten. Oh, that breaks my heart. I just think maybe if you make the reward for you can even make him a ticket that he comes home and says, I didn't eat the gluten today. And there is like an off the chart reward that makes it really worthwhile in the moment to not have it, but it's got to be huge, right? Because if everybody else, listen, I'm allergic to milk, and if everybody else around me is eating ice cream, it's got to be worth it, right? Even though I know it would be like intestinal distress if I were to have it, there's got to be something worthwhile in the moment so that I don't have it. It's hard for younger people. It's hard for all of us, really. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. I think we're at 7. Give contact for other parents. This can be as easy as going to whoever the room mother is and saying, hey, in other classes, we've done a year-end thing where anybody who wants to can list their names and their child's name and their phone number to be reached during the summer. And if the room mom is on it, they'll be like, oh yeah, I was doing that anyway. Give me your contact information, and then everybody will get everybody's. But you also can do that. I mentioned last week that there was one summer that I made a flyer and said Thursdays with Jem. And I said, here's our phone number. Here are the places we're going every Thursday. Please join us if you want to. And I got a bunch of people's phone numbers because of that. But it is worthwhile to get a few phone numbers so that you can do play dates and kind of stay in things with people. I know that it can be hard sometimes, and people tell me about how ostracized their kids are on a regular basis. I got to be honest, we didn't really experience that because Bryce Myler, who is an amazing person and just retired, she had gone before me and was somebody who gave me great advice along the way. And she said, make sure that every time that your child has a birthday party, everybody gets invited and it's off the charts. It's just off the charts. And then all of those kids will then invite your son to their birthday party. And she said, and make sure you show up, because a lot of people won't show up to all the birthday parties. And she also, said, invite kids over for play dates and get known as being the house that has the most amazing play dates, that you have the most fun stuff there. And then, we got invited to do pretty much everything, and pretty much every Saturday we were going to a birthday party. But it started with us having a Build-A-Bear when he was in kindergarten. Was he going to kindergarten? I think it was when he was 4, before he went to kindergarten. So we were in our first year of school at the Fun for Fours thing. It was preschool. And his birthday party, it was his 5th birthday, we had at Build-A-Bear at the mall. And we invited every kid in the class, and every kid in the class got a teddy bear. And let me tell you something, it was expensive, and it made me get the meat sweats because it was so expensive. And not only that, but kids in the class brought siblings. So I'm not kidding you. I think we bought 70 bears for kids. And it was craziness. And my husband was freaking out because of how much money we spent. But it was a lot. I'm not going to kid you. It was crazy amount of money. But I probably would have spent close to that if we had done a birthday party at home. And, and then what would I have done for entertainment? I didn't have to clean my house. I didn't have to make a cake. I didn't have to do anything. It was the best birthday party ever. And Build-A-Bear at the time, I don't know if they still do this, but we got credit for all of the things that the kids got. And so I never had to pay for another bear for years. I think I probably still have credit on a card somewhere. We would just go and turn it in, and I would have all these birthday and Christmas and whatever presents for everybody else at Build-A-Bear. So, it paid off, but also it meant we got invited to every single birthday party after that. So I don't think it's about spending money all the time. And there are many other things that you can do for a birthday party, but I'm just throwing that out there. Autism Journey with Elijah. Good morning and happy Mother's Day, by the way, to all of you. And I didn't get a chance to respond to your message, but happy Mother's Day. I just see you guys are doing so much stuff. It looks absolutely amazing. Yes, and they're saying these are the things that we miss while we homeschool. However, you want to connect to whatever homeschool association is a part of your part of the world, because there are so many other kids that are missing it too. I know where we went to school, my son was going to school, but many of his friends, by the time we finished, did homeschool, and we would get invited to the homeschool activities. And those were off the chain because they were done by the parents, and it was, they were trying to compensate for not having the other things. So I would ask around in your local community, what's the homeschool thing? And they'll do some pretty fun parties too, and year-end stuff, so that their kids don't have to miss out. And then Elijah can be part of that. Let me know if you're able to hook up with that. Okay, let's go on to the next one because we're running out of time. It goes by so fast. Number 8. I know you all think I'm totally whack-a-noodle right now by saying this while so much else is changing, but you know what? If things are changing, why not go ahead and do the full bore and change the diet at the same time? This is the perfect time of year to change diet, because if your kiddo has been really into artificial colors and flavors, every fruit is now fresh and available and colorful, and it's got tons of nutrients and natural sugar and no artificial flavors. So instead of packing them full of the candy and the other things that are happening this time of year, let's get them as organic and as eating as much whole food as possible. It is the ideal time to change the diet because the seasons are changing. And anytime the seasons change, it's a great time to change what you're eating because things will taste really flavorful. And this particular season change is the best, easiest, because things are starting to be harvested and fresh. So, and you've got more time. Oh, is today his birthday? Oh, Eli, happy birthday. I'm so excited for you. Thank you for telling us. Happy birthday. I'm not going to sing because we'll get slapped for a thing, for me singing out of turn. Okay, but happy birthday. Anybody who wants to write in and say happy birthday to Elijah. I always wanted to be the romper room woman and say, I see Elijah and I see it's your 7th birthday. Yay, Elijah. Okay, moving on. So change the diet, be bold. It's okay to do that. Number 9, give a new privilege for finishing. So, every time, and again, it was easier for my son because his birthday is this time of year too. We're at the end of the school year. You're getting a little bit older. So let's use Elijah as the example. You're 7 now. So guess what you get to do as a 7-year-old? And they're like, what? I get to do something I couldn't do before. And it could be, I remember the year that it was like, you can get in the refrigerator yourself and you can get something out of the refrigerator, because there were years that we had it Velcroed shut so that he couldn't get anything in there. He'd pull things out and there'd be a mess all over the kitchen. Or you're 7, which means, you get to fill in the blank. Maybe you get extra screen time. Maybe you get extra, I don't know, have your lights on longer. You get to read for 15 minutes longer. Whatever it is, but there's some new privilege. Because what they don't realize, and maybe they will realize later on in life, is that as you get older, you get new things and you lose some things too. And we've seen kids on the spectrum mourn. How come I don't get to ride the kiddie ride anymore, right? So instead of focusing on that, it's like, you get to do this. And I would language that all the time. And because, you're in the third, you're not going to be a 2nd grader anymore. You're going to be a big 3rd grader. And so now you get this new privilege, and it could be something that has nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with it. But something that is meaningful to them, that, now that it's the reward, it's like, and it helps them to transition and to like change and to like getting older, because that's really important. Joannie says, we worked with homeschool kids too. I taught Spanish and my kids got to learn Latin. We did that with all 4 kids. Love that. And Autism Journey with Elijah says, fruit is our friend, not veggies. Okay, love that. Although there are some veggies that resemble fruits, like people tend to like carrots and tomatoes. Evelyn says, happy birthday, Elijah. I love that. Feel free to write those in, you guys. Let him feel the love. So yeah, you come up with whatever the privilege is, but it is a great thing, and language it. Because you finished, you get to now do this. And it should be a privilege that they get to continue having. Don't make the mistake of then the next thing that they do that's not great, taking that away. Don't do that. Figure something else out, right? This is a privilege that they got for finishing this school year. So let's not use it as a response cost thing. That's a mistake that we frequently make as parents. We're like, well, you got this privilege and now you lost it. Don't do that. Take something else away if you have to, if that's what's working for you. Okay. And moving on to our last one, and we just have a couple of minutes. I mentioned before, best teacher gift ever is to write a letter, and you can say, you date it, and you say, to whom it may concern, Mrs. Williams was my son's 3rd grade teacher for the school year of 2023 to 2024, and she was amazing. And then you say, my child is on the autism spectrum, and I was concerned about X, Y, and Z, and here's what she did, and here's this problem that we ran into, and here's how she dealt with it, and her compassion and her, drive and attention to my child made, bloomed his self-esteem. He learned how to do this, blah, 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 blah. This is reserved for teachers that you feel have done an amazing job. You do not ever do this for somebody that you want to just say, leave my child alone, right? This is a reward for service well done. And I'll tell you, there's so many things that will happen as a result of this. First of all, it will make that teacher feel really wonderful. It's free and it's the best teacher gift. You can ask any teacher you know and they will tell you, they will back me up. It's the best teacher gift ever. I said before, you make 2 copies of the letter. One of them, you put a Post-it note on to the teacher and say, thank you so much for this amazing school year. I want you to know that I've given a copy of this to the principal and asked them to put it in your permanent file. On the other one, you write a note to the principal saying, I just want you to know how amazing this teacher was. Can you please put this in their permanent file? Okay, so the teacher feels great, but it goes into their permanent file and it helps them to get tenure. It helps them to get grants for funding. It helps them to get promotions, all kinds of things. It also helps them to continue working because we all want that, right? And it helps them to realize how meaningful their work is for kids on the spectrum. So you're leaving a legacy behind when you do this, but then it has far-reaching results because the teachers all sit in the teacher's lounge and somebody will say, oh my gosh, I got the most amazing letter from Elijah's mom. And she said that I was an amazing teacher and she put it into my file, right? And the teachers hear this and they go, I want a letter. I would like a letter. How come I didn't get a letter, right? And for the teacher, maybe you didn't give one to the SLP because they were a snob and a snot all year long. And they're like, why didn't I get a letter? And maybe we see, it's just like tipping waiters, right? Maybe we see some better behavior from her next year. But not only that, teachers who want that letter are going to start to want to have your child in the classroom. And they're going to know, if I do good work with this child, I'm going to get a letter at the end of the school year. My friends, I have done this and it works. You will start having good teachers request your child in their classroom. And they will expect the letter. Don't leave them hanging. You will want to do this multiple years in a row. It pays off dividends that you can't even imagine. It's the gift that keeps on giving and it's a free. So we cannot overstate which one, how important of a tool this is. And again, it's free. So Parker says, I worry about transitions like best friends moving away. That was hard for me when I was a young schooler. And Eli says, thank you. Oh, Eli, thank you. So yeah, Parker, it's really hard. And I've seen this happen many times too, where kids move away and you got to start over. You go to a new school and you got to start over. I must say, there is an amazing program at UCLA that I think they're still doing it online. It used to be that you could only go in person, but then during COVID, they started doing it online, and I think they're still doing it. It is called the Peers Program, and it was started by Liz Lageson. And what's amazing about it is that parents and the kids take the class at the same time, but you're split up into separate groups. So the kids are in one group and they're learning a skill. The parents are in another group and they're learning about how to support the skill that the kids are learning. It's really great. And I didn't get the opportunity to go through that program with my son, but I got to sit in for a little while when Liz Lageson was teaching, because she was preparing a group of CARD employees to become ready to teach the Peers program at CARD. So I got to sit in on one of the sessions and she was talking specifically about how transitions and things of that nature and how kids find friends, and saying that, what you wear is a billboard of what you like. And saying that for parents, we have to be very strategic about what we dress our kids in. And that if your kids are going to be starting school and there isn't a uniform, that you send your kids with a t-shirt that has something that only people who are into that same thing would understand that t-shirt. Well, this set off the neurons in my head because this was the summer before my son was going to high school. So we started shopping that summer because where my son went to high school, they had a uniform, but there were 2 days at the beginning of the year where all of the kids, before their uniforms were handed out, they all got on a bus and they went to visit a college together. This is the incoming freshmen because it was a college prep school. So 2 days, they're going to go on the bus, whatever, no uniforms. And so we shopped all summer long to find the 2 t-shirts that were going to say, this is who I am. And I was like, we're just going to try it and see how well it works. And I could not believe it. the first day, because they would go during the day and you'd pick them up at night. And he got off the bus the first day and he was like, I'm so excited. I made all these new friends. All these people were coming up to me because he had this character from a video game that he loved, but I wouldn't have known what it was. And I think most people wouldn't have known what it was. But if you like to play that game, you would absolutely know. And they had given each other their phone numbers and they had started a group chat together the first day. He is still friends with all of these people. They still get together on a regular basis, even though they're all about to finish college. That's just one of the tricks that Liz Logazin can teach you. So transitions are hard. Meeting new friends, it's hard, but we can make it easier by using our clothes as a billboard. It's like a signal, putting up a signal going, hey, I'm into this. So we do it mindfully and we think about, who do we want to attract, right? And that's what we put on our shirt. And by the way, this was a conversation that my son and I had at length about, what kinds of friends do you want to meet? Would you, and then it took us all summer long to find the 2 t-shirts. It was the best idea ever. So remember that we don't have to be overwhelmed by those things. It can be exciting. Think about all the new exciting friends you're going to meet. And maybe you're going to meet some friends who are really into this, that, or the other thing, right? That they're really into. So, but going back to number 10, write those letters of recommendation. It turned into a thing at our school where I remember going to IEP meetings and people sitting there and going, oh, thank you so much for that letter that you wrote. And then there were other people at the table going, I didn't get a letter. And it was like, no, you didn't. And we found that people cycled in and off our team, but more and more, we just got the cream of the crop. And people did their best because they knew it was going to be worth their while. That's sad, but true. Anyway, I've so enjoyed this time. We've gone over. I'm sorry, Chris Desmond. But happy birthday, Elijah. We're so excited that you're 7. Do you know all the amazing things you get to do as a 7-year-old? There are just so many things that you can do when you're 7. You see? Putting it in motion. And then let us know all the things that you get to do because you're a big 7-year-old now. We're so proud of you. That's absolutely amazing. I hope you guys finish strong and that there's some new challenges around the corner, but some new fun around the corner. If you're worried about the summer, go back and watch the show that we did last week where we talked about really using summer as the springboard to success between the two. Hopefully you'll be set up for a wonderful, happy, fun, productive summer that you'll never forget. I hope that for all of you. All right, we're back tomorrow with, check this out. We aren't able to have Dr. Grampiche tomorrow, so we're having Evelyn Kung. Do you guys remember Evelyn Kung? We haven't had her on the show for a really long time, but we're going to do a special edition of Ask Evelyn Kung. That is tomorrow. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you for all that you do and all that you are. So Evelyn Kung will be here tomorrow, and she's answering your questions. I wish I could remember what the topic is, but it escapes me. I think it's executive functionings. It's executive functionings. I'm almost positive. So that'll be no, I'm wrong. That's next week. It's motor skills tomorrow. We're going to talk about motor skills, fine motor skills and gross motor skills. And these are some amazing things that we can be working on during the summer. Thank you so much, Chris. And then on Wednesday, we have the fabulous Matt Asner from the Ed Asner Family Center is going to be joining us. He's got a lot of fun stuff, updates to give us about their academy, but also the Ed Asner Poker Tournament is coming up on June 15th. He's going to tell us who the big stars are that are joining this year. We've got an amazing announcement about who's going to be covering the red carpet for us. So that's going to be a thrill a minute. Then on Thursday, we're doing a best of Autism Live that's going to be coming to you. And we're replaying the episode of what do you do when your child doesn't qualify for an IEP. So many of you have been getting this, either it's you're coming in for the new IEP and they're saying, nope, the child, even though they have autism, they don't qualify for an IEP, or your child is a little bit older and they've had the IEP for a while and now they're saying they're no longer qualified for it because there's not an educational benefit for them. We've got you in both instances. That's a replay that we're showing you on Thursday. And then on Friday, we are replaying one of the best of Ask Dr. Doreen, and we're talking about educationally enriched environment. How do you make every waking moment an educationally enriched environment? It doesn't have to be exhausting, and it doesn't have to all be on you. But we'll give you some hints and tips, and you'll hear from Dr. Granpeesheh about why that's critical, especially in the young years. So, Joanne, we love you. So we love all of you guys. And thank you so much for being here. It's such a privilege to get to spend this time with you guys. And thank you, Chris Desmond, for making this possible so that I could do it from a distance. I'm telling you, Chris Desmond, whoo, so good. So grateful for him. We're going to see you guys tomorrow for Ask Evelyn Kung. You're not going to want to miss it. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. And we'll see you tomorrow for Ask Evelyn Kung. Bye-bye for now. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.